Simply becoming aware of the rhythm of the breath. Resting your gaze in the space in front of you, keeping the eyes soft and relaxed. Blink as often as you need. And now simply release all appearances, allowing the mind to come to rest. Resting in awareness itself, knowing that you're aware. Resting in that open, spacious stillness of awareness. Now from that open, spacious state, start to become aware of the movements of the mind. Observing any thoughts, emotions, images, or memories that are appearing in the mind. you're simply getting caught up in your thoughts, then shift back to mainly resting in that open, spacious stillness. And just notice the thoughts a little bit in the background. If you're completely lost in this practice, go back and anchor yourself in the body. So mainly focusing on the rhythm of the breath. Have that as your main object. And then just a little bit in the background, notice any thoughts. Any more questions or comments?
It's a little bit complicated, so I'll try to do it. So the mind is a sense. In Buddhist perspective, the mind is another sense, like hearing, like tasting.
Okay, that was going to be my next presentation, so let me give the presentation that might answer your question. If it doesn't, you can
This
ask.
is not the question.
Ah.
The question is, when I, for example, hear a gong, I can follow the sound all the way by monitoring my mindfulness,
With using mindfulness to notice that sound, yes.
But when I observe my mental activity, the minute I notice, and the question is about the difference between noticing and observing, because the minute I notice, it dissipates.
Good.
So it's like, in a sense, like popping bubbles, and I can't really follow the mental activity to its end because I interfere with the mental activity.
The mental activity can only persist if you're feeding it. So, mental activities persist because we engage in them and give them energy. You know, we're following a stream of thought or something. So if we're not doing that, if we're just stepping back and something comes up, then there's nothing that can continue it, so it will disappear. So in fact, the fact that as soon as something pops up, it disappears is good. It means you're not getting caught up in it.
There is nothing to follow.
And we're not following, exactly it. We don't want to follow.
So it's different from sound or from...
Well, only in the sense that a sense object has, of course, a continuity in itself because it's a sense object. And in the mental realm, mental objects only have continuity because we make that continuity. We are generating mental events. We're not generating sense objects. The sense objects are, we're just simply observing them. But where the mental events, we are generating them, either consciously or unconsciously. We're generating them. And so as soon as we see them, then good. But anyway, just to follow up on your question,
I have something to about that also.
Sorry?
What you said.
yeah, well, let me first, and then we can continue. So, when we talk about the mind, we can talk about it in many ways. And of course, here we're using these three words sort of interchangeably: mind, consciousness, awareness. So when we say rest in awareness, we're just saying rest in the mind, rest in consciousness. And of course for us now, that is what's called the coarse mind. That's the mind that's active now. But also, of course, with this mind, we can perceive different types of objects. We can perceive visual objects, sounds, smell, taste, tactile. So we can perceive the five sense objects, but also we can perceive mental objects, thoughts, emotions, memories, mental images. So since we can perceive 6 types of objects, we can talk about what's called the 6 consciousnesses. But of course, we're not talking about 6 minds. We're talking about 6 aspects of the one mind that we have. So we can talk about the 5 sense consciousnesses. And mental consciousness. So, for example, the visual consciousness is that aspect of the mind that can perceive colours and shapes. The auditory consciousness is the aspect of mind that can perceive sound, and so on. And the mental consciousness is the aspect of mind that can perceive mental events, thoughts, emotions, memories, images, and so forth. So sense consciousnesses are non-conceptual, meaning they observe the object directly. So the visual consciousness directly perceives colour and shape. Auditory consciousness directly perceives sound. Whereas mental consciousness is conceptual, meaning the mental consciousness knows things via concept. For example, when we look here, our visual consciousness simply sees a collection of colour and shape there. But then our mental consciousness interprets that and goes, flowers, cup. So we know these through concept, through conceptual. So of course in this practice, this is where we are observing. We're using mental consciousness, we're observing mental objects. Later, we're going to do what's called open awareness, which will also be observing the 5 sense objects, because that's what we'll be doing in daily life. Question?
I don't see thought, maybe, but I saw a lot of cravings.
craving. Well, that's what we would call probably a mental affliction.
Okay, craving like I want sun, I want. It's
Yeah.
also with the thought. I'm sure that it's
Yeah, so that's a mental affliction. So that's
Okay.
what we would sort of loosely call emotion.
but it's strong. So
Pulls you.
it didn't pull. It's like I went back to my open stillness to the. And when it pulls me back, I went back to my body. So the body was the anchor.
Sure.
It doesn't matter where I'm having the anchor. Still, I have like when I see something that is pulling me very strong, I need an anchor.
Yeah,
right?
good.
So
Very
the
good.
anchor is maybe the open space
Exactly.
or the body or.
That's what we've been introducing. So, and that's what we're going to do in the practice now, is specifically focus on these things. Specifically focus on the reactions, like craving, attachment, anger, jealousy, aversion, and so forth, because they pull us more, and often we don't tend to notice them. They're not there because they're so close, they're sticky, very sticky. So in this practice, we're going to specifically focus on these. And again, exactly what you said is that if we start to get pulled by them, then, as we saw earlier, then shift back more into that open, spacious mind. And then there's less pull because we're in a bigger space. If that's not really working, then go one step further back and go into the body and just focus on that, anything in the body, the rhythm of the breath or something, and go back there. So then we can sort of move from observing it fully, stepping back one to having the more this, and then if that's not right, step back more into the body. So we can sort of move backwards and forwards, and then hopefully through doing that, we'll get more and more able to just directly observe it, but that'll take time. But this is a good short-term strategy to step back like that, to not get pulled by it.
Like stepping back, it's like to hold an anchor because it's
Exactly.
so strong.
Exactly, it's an anchor. But what we'll find is, as we are improving our ability, we'll need less and less an anchor because it won't pull us so much. But that'll take time. So that's what we're going to do in the practice now. We're going to do exactly that. But any last question before we go to that? Yeah.
Okay, so something related to what she asked, and also I think I asked that yesterday, when I'm in a break and I notice a thought, and I notice it and then it's gone. But I don't think that's very good. I mean, it's good, but it's not always good. For example, such a nice flower, and then okay, I'm starting to think such a that the thought doesn't fit it, pops, like you said.
Yeah, but I mean, then if you've noticed that there's a thought, oh, not such a nice flower, but if that thought is something then useful to engage in, because maybe then you want to investigate the flowers or something else, then we just pursue that. So then what we're saying is that, because then we decide whether or not to then engage in that. I mean, now what happens is that comes up and we get caught up, and a lot of things we get caught up in. So what we're saying is we just want to have the ability to choose which of those to engage in and which just to let go.
Yeah.
And so this will give us that ability.
Yeah.
We're not saying we're getting rid of all thinking, because thinking sometimes is important, necessary. So that with this practice, we're just developing the ability to choose, that we'll be the master instead of the slave.
Yeah, I understand that, but what
Sure.
I'm saying is that right now I can't engage with it because it dies. If I notice it dies.
Right, but then when you notice it, then you can just pay attention to the flower to go further. No?
I'm supposed to, but I'm not sure it will work. I can try.
Sure. I mean, if you look at a flower and you have a nice thought, and then something that you feel like it's be useful to engage in, then we just continue engaging in that object. That is, if not, then we just leave it. Okay, let's go back to the practice, and we're running out of time, so we'll do a short 15-minute session. And so again, the same practice, but again, this time, really paying a lot of attention to any reactions to pleasant and unpleasant things that come up. And again, if we're getting caught up, to step back into that stillness. And if that's still not working, step back into the body.